This webinar is going to be a little bit of an update regarding All Bond Universal. And we're going to make it as clear as possible, highlighting features and benefits of a product that has been around for a long time and that has become one of our most successful adhesives in the history of Bisco. So, let's just begin. So today's agenda, we're going to do a little bit of the overview of All Bond Universal. We're going to compare it with a few competitors. And I understand that not every competitor that we have on our website, on this presentation is something that is popular in your home country. However, we try our best to cover what we believe is popular in other places. If you have any questions or requests regarding that, please feel free to contact us so we can do some proper testing and provide you with data. So let's start with the overview. I'm sorry. So All Bond Universal, as you probably know, is our single bottle light cure adhesive that is fully compatible with light, self, and dual cure materials. And it is indicated for both direct and indirect procedures. And also, it allows for it to be used with any bonding technique. Okay. That could be total etch, self etch, or selective etch, which is the bonding technique that we recommend to be used and where All Bond Universal actually shines. When you are using All Bond Universal in selective etch and self etch technique, that will lead to virtually no post-up sensitivity. And also, it does not require the use of an additional bottle or activator for it to be compatible with self-cure and dual cure materials. It's compatible all in a single bottle. So the term universal comes from those three main features, which is any direct or indirect restoration, any bonding technique, and no need for an additional activator. That's what makes All Bond Universal unique. Okay, so All Bond Universal is being sold in, at least 90 countries around the world, and we've sold well over 900,000 units. And if you multiply that by the amount of applications, is well over 125 million restorations worldwide. So quite an interesting background. So I always like to mention that when a product has been around for so long and has been effective, and then there is always somebody requesting clinical data in which we can provide. That's not a problem, but this is a major tool. When you say, well, it's been around since 2012 and we've sold close to, close to 1 million bottles have been sold. And, that adds up to 125 million applications. So that actually tells you how good and how stable and how efficient and predictable All Bond Universal is. Okay, so again, going through the features and benefits, and this is the features and benefits highlighted with their icons, indicated for all direct and indirect restorations in all, whether it's total etch, self etch, whether you need to use it with dual cure materials or whether you need to use it with self cure materials or light cure materials. Materials can be polymerized in any mode, and you can use it with any bonding technique. It does contain MDP for enhanced durability. MDP has shown to provide the stability of the bond substrate over time, and also provides a very strong bond to both enamel and dentin. It has a mild uh, pH is, is larger than 3, is about 3.2. And that will allow for the compatibility with any dual and self-cure materials without the need of a separate activator. Um, it also has a very low water content. And the low water content is really interesting to highlight because by having low water content, it allows the clinician to evaporate that water easier. So you need the water for the activation of the MDP in order to bond. It's called ionization. But also you need that water to help, provide that makes the adhesive hydrophilic upon placement. Dentin is, it has water in it. So you want the adhesive to be compatible with that environment. But as you apply it and then you remove the excess water, and you light cure it by removing all the excess water, your adhesive layer is going to be less hydrophilic or more hydrophobic. And that by being more hydrophobic, it provides a way to mitigate the hydrolysis, the degradation due to the water that is coming from the dentin. So it provides more stability. Okay. Now, other features and benefits, like I said, hydrophobic formula after cure provides improved durability. It's already less hydrophilic or a little bit more hydrophobic than other products out there because it has less water. And by having less water, like I explained before, being able to evaporate it before polymerizing will provide a more hydrophobic adhesive layer. It has a very low film thickness, about 10 microns. This is, allows for the adhesive to flow into all the different spaces in a preparation. And it also provides a better seal of all the substrates because you can spread it out easier. And when it's light cured, as long as you don't leave areas of pooled adhesive, it will not interfere with the proper seating of the restoration. If you think about what 10 microns mean, a piece of paper is about 100 microns thick. So the layer of Allbond is going to be extremely thin. And that's something to think about. Okay. Here's this moisture tolerant formulation that allows the adhesive to bond in the presence of moisture, right? Different types of moisture or no moisture at all. One of the things that we made sure is that you can, if for whatever reason the tooth substrate is wet, moist, or dry, All Bond Universal will be able to achieve good bond. We recommend for the substrate to be moist, not with a lot of water, and also not to be dry or desiccated. We want the substrate to have a little bit of moisture, but either way, All Bond is going to work. Now, indications for use, all direct restorations with any light cure composite in the market is going to work. Not a problem. All indirect restorations where you can do cementation procedures with dual cure or self-cure materials, cements, is going to work. It also works as a desensitizing agent, by sealing the tooth in case that there is dentin exposed. And then you can apply Allbond and it's going to seal that. Okay. It also works as a protective varnish for glass ionomer based filling. So if you place glass ionomer as a restorative, you can cover it with Allbond and it's going to, seal for a little bit. And it has that application. You can use it for orthodontic bonding, ortho appliances. You can use it for that too. And also works for endodontic post cementation, such as fiber posts. And this technique has been proven and it has an interesting clinical track record. It works in any of these indications. Now, if you look at some of the common procedures we have, the indirect restorations, and of course, there is a sandwich technique where you place Theracal in the deepest area of the prep, and then you can cover that with Therabase. And after you do that, you can, do your selective etch or total etch or whatever the case may be, apply your Albon, and then you apply your composite. In this case, we have a new composite called Quantium. That's why the name of the composite in the graphic is Quantium, but you can use any composite on top of that. If the clinicians decide that they don't want to use let's say Theracal in the deepest area of the prep and there is no exposure, and they decide to go directly on on the preparation, they can do that without any problem. It's just a matter of what the clinician decides to do. But in the case that, if you apply Theracal and then Albon on top of Theracal, that will be fine. If you apply Theracal and then Therabase and then Albon, that will also be fine. Not a problem. When it comes to, for example, zirconia bonding, I know we have the zirconia bonding procedure with Theracem, but if the clinician decides to use something like Duolink, and then, for restorations that don't have a lot of retention, that, they're short, and then, you apply Albon to the prep, and then you apply Duolink as your cement of choice. Of course, to the zirconia, you got to do the procedure, try in, zircline it, and Z-prime, and then you use Duolink as your cement. But Albon works really well with Duolink. When it comes to, etchable ceramics, same thing. You're going to use Duolink, and you're going to use Albon as your bonding agent of choice. So this third graphic has the zirconia graphic, and also has the Emax and feldspathic porcelain or etchable ceramics graphic, where you can see the sequence. But Albon will work really well with Duolink in these cases. Okay. And then, of course, you'll have your veneers, where you're going to etch your prep, you're going to apply Albon, and you're going to treat the veneers based on the material that it's made out of, whether it's zirconia, whether it's feldspathic porcelain or lithium disilicate. But Albon will work completely fine with choice 2 cement, or any light cure cement that the clinician is deciding to use for veneer cementation. Even with the people that heat composite, warm up composite to use it as a luting agent for veneers, Albon will work just fine. Now, when it comes to different presentations of the product, different packaging options, we have the 6 ml refill bottle. I know in some places there is a 4 ml refill bottle, but the bottle is exactly the same. And then we have the unit doses. I believe now we only have the 100 count unidose presentation or packaging. And then, of course, we have a little system that we sell here in the US. This might be available in your country or not. It all depends on what you decide to commercialize. When it comes to Albon, there is a bottle, a 6 ml bottle, along with a Select HV Etch syringe. And we have that in a kit, okay? It's called the standard kit. Now, when it comes to the different techniques that you can use Albon, the first 3 images in the front on the top talks about self-etch, total etch, and selective etch. So if you read them from left to right, your self-etch doesn't require any phosphoric acid on the prep. Your total etch requires that you apply phosphoric acid on both enamel and dentin. And your selective etch requires to selectively place the etchant on the enamel surface only. Then the application of Albon, which is the lower left to right images, is, you apply it, and you, how do I say this? Actively, you have to scrub it in with a micro brush. You're going to do 2 consecutive coats. Apply it, brush it in, scrub it in for about 10 to 15 seconds, and then you're going to apply it again. Scrub it in 10 to 15 seconds. Then you air dry it or evaporate the solvent, air thin it better. We're going to evaporate the solvent with a gentle stream of air. And then once you're ready with that, you're going to light cure and continue with the placement of whether it's a direct restoration, indirect restoration, a cement, or a direct composite. Okay, but it will work in the three bonding techniques. Okay, now when we talk about hydrophilic and hydrophilic is when you have a substrate that is hydrophilic, you put a drop of water and the drop will just flatten out because it's trying to spread out and it's trying to cover as much substrate as you can because the substrate is just liking the water. After you light cure Albon, the substrate becomes hydrophobic, and you can see how the water, the drop, it just is it's just like a droplet. It will not spread out. And this is the transformation between hydrophilic to hydrophobic. You want your adhesive to be hydrophilic when you're placing it on the tooth, but you want your adhesive to be as hydrophobic as possible after you polymerize it. Okay. And of course, we can actually measure this hydrophobicity and the water droplet measure is called contact angle, right? And when you have a more hydrophobic surface, you have a more durable bond. It's less permeable. It seals better. And again, all bond is completely compatible with any self-cure or dual cure material. All right. Now, I know that right now, the bond war is out there and everybody's got data. This is our data, okay? And even though it's a little crowded, I'm going to try to break it down. So if you look at all bond universal with dual link universal, and you have four values using that combination, this is where you do, for example, the yellow bar is total etch technique, light curing. Luego, then after that, I have total etch self-curing. And light curing means light curing the dual link, and self-cure is self-cure the dual link. And then we have the same combination, but using self-etch. So you have total etch, light cure dual link. The blue one is total etch, self-cure dual link. And then the other two are in self-etch mode. And as you can see, they are extremely similar, okay? Extremely similar, giving you the possibility of choosing whatever technique you want, and it's going to work just fine. When it comes, the breakdown of other adhesives is there, and as you can see, in some cases, self-etch works best, total etch works best. If you self-cure the adhesive, if you self-cure, the cement is better than if you light cure it. So every adhesive has in the market, or the ones that are tested here, have different behaviors when it comes to the interaction with their own cement. Because right here, Scotchbond Universal, we're using Reliax Universal. We're also using Reliax Ultimate. Primer Monoleg, we're using Calibra, and with Adhese Universal, using Biolink. So different behaviors. Not every adhesive behaves the same, even with their own cement. But one thing that we try to focus on is that regardless of the bonding technique and regardless of the polymerization mechanism of the cement, we're going to achieve very, very similar bond strength. And we're proving that here in this chart. Right here, hold on a minute. I am having issues. Okay, I got it. So we're looking at pH, and the pH is, is what makes a product compatible or not. And you might think that the pH difference here is minimum, and it's not, because the pH differences are exponential, the logarithmic. So the difference between 3.2 and 2.7, if you do the subtraction, is 0.5. That will be 5 times more acidic. So a Scotch Bond Universal Plus is 5 times more acidic than All Bond. And that is the reason why we are 100% compatible with any dual cure self-care material compared to other materials, to other adhesives. Most of these adhesives require the use of an additional activator. They just don't mention that. They also kind of try to box in the the adhesive and the cement, and recommend to clinicians that, hey, you need to use, if you're using our adhesive, you should use our cement. And that, for the most part, is not wrong. However, we are more of an open architecture system where if the doctor prefers to use, I don't know, Variolink dual cure over dual link universal because they shade better, they like the flowability better, you know, people have preferences. They can still use our adhesive without any issues, okay? Because we are compatible without the need of an additional activator. Now, water content, like I said, you need water for the ionization of the adhesive. That means that you need MDP to be activated for it to bond to the tooth structure, but also you want to have the least amount of water in order to have an adhesive that is hydrophilic upon placement, but hydrophobic after polymerization. And this is where we shine. Also, low water content will have an impact on pH. The lower the pH, the lower the water content, the less acidic the adhesive is going to be. So there is a fine balance in the formula when you have water content, MDP, ethanol. You want the adhesive to be compatible, but you also want to achieve good bond strength, but you also wanted to make it hydrophobic upon play after polymerization, but you want it for it to be hydrophilic upon placement. So it's not that simple to make a good universal bonding agent. And you can see the differences here. If you take, for example, prime and bond active from Dentsply, that has a close to 20% of water content. That makes it extremely hydrophilic and also extremely acidic. Okay, so these things are some of the few things that we're trying to highlight when it comes to being competitive. Okay, water content is a big issue right now. Not necessarily other things, but water content, at least for us, is always being extremely important because that has a direct impact on stability, compatibility, pH, hydrophilic to hydrophobic. That is very important. Now, let's compare it to some of the products out there. If there are prices somewhere here, disregard those because these prices are basically US prices, so don't worry about that. So we got, we're going to compare Auburn Universal to both Solventums or 3M's adhesives. We're going to compare it to Dentsply's universal bonding agents, active, and the other one is called Elect. We're going to compare it to Ivoclar's Adhese Universal, and of course to Curare's. This one is called Clearfield SE Bond. No, Clearfield Bond Quick. Clearfield Universal Quick. So let's start with this guy over here. Oh, great. I don't have any prices. So you can see side by side, pH, Solventum's product is 2.7, so it's 5 times more acidic. Water content is it's extremely high compared to ours, 9.8 to 2.5. Universal, the 3M product requires an activator to be compatible with anything. We don't. It does work, the 3M product, with any of the bonding technique, and that is a given to any universal bonding agent. They have to be able to do that. We don't require an activator. So this is the main thing with Scotch Bond Universal. You need an activator 100% of the time. Okay, so we have 7.3 less amount of water compared to them. They have 7.3% more water when we compare their water content to ours. We do obtain higher bond strength to dentin in our tests, and we don't require an activator. If you want to create an argument regarding bond strength, everybody has brochures where they show that their adhesive has higher bond strength. But one thing that we can definitely prove that you cannot change that is water content, and also the fact that you need an activator, that a product needs an activator, and we don't. So that is the main selling points regarding regarding Scotch Bond Universal. One thing that 3M does is they consolidate their silane system with their bonding agent. and they put it together in a single bottle for convenience. Even the fact that contains MDP, they usually say, well, if you want to bond to zirconia, you can use ours because it has MDP. If you want to bond to metal, same thing. You can bond to the tooth structure, and then they add silane to it, meaning that you can use it as a silane substitute. You don't need to use just pure silane. You can use this stuff and it will bond to your etchable ceramics. However, there are plenty of studies out there that show that silane in a bottle of universal bonding agent, due to the low pH of that bottle, of that formula, is going to deactivate the silane over time, and it's not going to be effective. It's not going to be an optimized bond. Okay, so I just wanted to emphasize on that when it comes to, comparing Allbond Universal to Scotch Bond. That is very, very important. Now, the new adhesive from 3M is quite interesting because the water content is the same. But what they did is they added the activator to the bottle, to the formula in a bottle. So now they can claim true compatibility. They can claim that they are truly universal. So it took him about, I don't know, I want to say about 10 years to get to that point. Okay. So their newest product is compatible, and we need to acknowledge that. Okay. Now because if you're in a competitive war, you need to acknowledge what the features and benefits of other products, what they have and how you can sell against it. So the whole activator, the need of an activator benefit goes out the window immediately with this product. However, the water content still very high and makes it, hydrophilic. And hydrophilic means less stable over time. So water content still, there for us. We are hydrophilic upon placement and hydrophobic after evaporation of all the water and solvent from the formula, like curing it, is hydrophobic. And that is what you want. Okay. In our testing, we do show higher bond strength to dentin. And of course, they also contain silane. They contain silane. And by containing silane, they said that they changed the formula of the silane. They have a new type of silane with it's a longer carbon chain or whatever it is. And what it is, they're trying to consolidate because they understand that by consolidating everything in a single bottle, it provides a benefit to the clinician because now it's more convenient, less inventory of products. And if somebody's looking for that, okay, I understand that. But if you need to understand that if you think about the most non-retentive restoration that a dentist can do, you have to think about a veneer. And if you think about a veneer, you want to have the best bond possible. And the best bond possible to an Emax veneer is when you etch it with hydrofluoric acid for 20 seconds and apply silane on a separate bottle. Whether it's a two bottle system or whether it's a single bottle system, it's always better to use pure silane than using a silane containing bonding agent. Okay. Now, when we compare it to Primavon Active, we can see the pH is low. The amount of water is extremely high. We're talking about almost 20% water content of the overall formula. It does require an activator, okay? And, 17% lower water content compared to them. They have a 70% higher water content. And that is why this product has a low pH and it has compatibility issues. Of course, when you try to evaporate all that water, you're not going to be able to accomplish that in 10 or 15 seconds. And you're going to leave behind water, and that water is going to make that adhesive layer hydrophilic after polymerization. Because this guy is so acidic, it requires an activator to be compatible. That's just the way that is, designed. And they have the activator. They just don't promote it. They don't tell anybody that they need an activator. What they're telling people is, hey, if you use our adhesive, you should use our cement. So it's kind of like a closed architecture system. Again, we are not closed architecture. We are compatible with any cement. or dual cure material out there, okay? This is Primer Bond Elect, which is the latest one. Also low pH, less water though, less water, but still high. You still need an activator when you have a pH of 2.3. You still need an activator. So, this has less water, but still 10.4% higher than us. That we do show higher bond strength to dentin. And again, they require an additional activator. So just by requiring that gives, you guys the benefit, the edge. It is a handicap for that. Okay, so all you got to do is highlight the handicap. When we compare Albon Universal to Ivoclar's adhesive, they have a pH of 2.5 and a water content of 11.3. Okay, and they have 8.8% higher water content than us. And this, again, higher water content requires more working time to remove all that water, and a hydrophilic formula is not desired. We do show higher bond strength to dentin. They don't require an activator, but they do recommend the use of their adhesive with their cement, with Biolink, which makes total sense. Okay, makes total sense. They don't recommend, they emphasize on using their adhesive and their cement system all together. Okay, now talking about Universal Quick 2, which is the latest from Curare. They have low water content, the same, this guy has 13.12% compared to 2.5. That's what we have. They do require an activator. And when you look at it, 10.62% higher water content. And of course, by not needing an activator, you don't need to be concerned about compatibility. Curare does recommend to use their stuff, their adhesive, with their cement. The story, I understand, is repetitive, but I'm highlighting how you can sell against some of these products. Okay. These guys have silane in them, also trying to consolidate. We have tests, and we also have literature that shows studies where silane in a bottle of adhesive is not very effective. It degrades over time, and it's not the optimized way to bond to an etchable ceramic. So this is very important because people may think that is they're getting more in a single bottle, but there is a trade-off. There is something they're giving up, which is optimization of bond. If they're willing to do that, that's fine. But if they're doing it thinking they're going to get the same bond with this than they get with pure silane, that's a problem. And you can highlight this. Say, hey, you're buying it because it has silane. Well, we got data to show. There is published data by third parties that shows that these silane systems don't work very well inside a bottle of adhesive. All right. So, few questions that we get from people. It says how to right here, hold on a minute, how to bond strength to dentin compare between adhesives. And we already showed this chart. You can show this chart, you can print this chart, you can extract whatever data you think it's interesting. But as you can see, we are more stable all across when it comes to numbers. I not only like to see numbers, but also behavior trends. And I can say that we're fine. We are good in total etch mode, in self etch mode to dentin, and we're also good with light cure cement and self cure cement. And that's what you want, stability. Okay. Is there any advantage of having silane universal adhesives? Here's a little explanation of something that I have emphasized during this presentation. Okay. Emphasized. Low pH will deactivate the silane over time. So even though it sounds like a great idea, when you have silane living in a low pH environment, like a bottle of universal bonding agent, it's not going to last long. It will degrade, and we've done some testing here. We've tested Scotch Bond Universal Plus, the bond strength to Emax. Um, and when we bought it, we tested it, and the baseline was 21.15 of bond strength. And then you see that blue line, we allow for it to just age, after 16 weeks. And we also did a 37 degree accelerated aging, put it in the oven, and it went down to 8.89, 16 weeks. And you're like, well, okay, why are you putting it in the oven? Just to see the behavior. Now, after 24 weeks, the one that was aged basically remained the same. So it didn't degrade anymore. But the one that started at 21 and then kept on going on 21 after 16 weeks, after 24 weeks, it crashed and it reached the level of maximum degradation. So that's what you're getting. That's the kind of bond people are getting. So this is something for you to consider. If you want this chart, we can share it with you for sure. Just another tool to sell against, and against a feature that doctors may feel is beneficial when it actually is not. Okay, right here we have another question. It says, why is water content important in a dental adhesive? I've also explained this several times today. I've emphasized, oops, sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Here we go. Unlike other solvents such as acetone or ethanol, water is difficult to remove. So it requires a little bit of more work, right? So that residual water, if it's less, it will be easier to remove, okay? And also, there is, like I said, the possibility of removing all the water from Alban U is higher for many reasons, okay? And you are able to remove that, and then you're going to achieve a more hydrophobic layer of adhesive. So when you light cure, that adhesive layer is going to be less prone to hydrolytic degradation, to hydrolysis. This is a main feature that I am actually emphasizing when I lecture about universal bonding agents. Water content is of the essence. It's something that you can talk about. If you haven't incorporated this to the way you try to sell Allbond Universal, this will be a good time to do so. There is enough data out there to, make a point when it comes to water content. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for attending this webinar. I hope it's useful. And I'll see you guys when we're going to have this Allbond U training. I know we're putting a lot of effort into promoting Allbond U this quarter. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.